हेलो दोस्तों, केजी क्लासेस में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम आपको लाइफ एंड वर्क्स ऑफ डब्ल्यू.बी. ईट्स के बारे में पढ़ाएंगे। लाइफ एंड वर्क। विलियम बटलर ईट्स, born at Sandy Mouth near Dublin on June 13, 1865, was the eldest son of John Butler East. W. East grandfather, Reverend Butler East, was the rector of the Church of Ireland. The rector loved sports and dancing and was inclined to evangelicalism. The family perhaps migrated from Yorkshire, England, to Ireland in the 17th century. William Butler East's father, John Butler East, was educated at Crosby, where he developed faith in God and his handiwork. Later on, John East studied in a school kept by a Scotsman famous for flogging and harsh discipline. When he left school, his faith in God and morality had dwindled. William Butler East's father was a great intellectual and a man of varied interests but of strong opinions. He was opposed to orthodox dogmas and did not cherish worldly ambitions. East's mother was different from his father. She was a country girl named Susan. She came to the well-to-do family of the Pollux fans who lived at Sligo in the west of Ireland. William Butler East had toured London, Dublin, and Sligo even in his childhood with his parents. His father had to shift his household several times between Dublin and London, and the children were often left with their maternal grandparents at Sligo for economic reasons. Its uncles and aunts regarded him as a mentally deficient child. He was dull and slow to learn and bad at spelling. Once his father was staying at Marble, and East was surprised to find that he did not go to church. His father's attitude encouraged him to refuse to go to church on Sunday morning. Its early education was by and large neglected. As a dull and weak student, he was sent in 1875 to the Godolphin School at Hammersmith. It was at the age of 10 in 1875 that it was sent formally to a school named Godolphin School at Hammersmith. His father taught him and read from the novels of Fenimore Cooper. He remained in that school between 1875 and 1880. There he attained some proficiency in Latin and history. What was weak in mathematics, the family of Eats left Bedford Park and settled at Hot's Country, Dublin in 1880. In this year, his father sent him to Erasmus Smith School, Dublin. Here the youngster developed a post that of London travelled sophisticated person with advanced belief and a curiously rhythmical manner of speaking. Among the hembred class fellow these days, he read Macaulay and Scott, Shelley and Shakespeare, but his interest in science proved to be short-lived. He studied at Erasmus Smith High School in Dublin from 1881 to 1883. When his parents wanted him to join the Trinity College, Dublin, fear of failing in the entrance examination tormented him and he refused to do so. His classics and mathematics were very big, so his father sent him to the Metropolitan School of Art to become a painter. Later on, he was sent to the more distinguished art school run by the Royal Hibernian Academy. It was here that he came in contact with the well-known philosopher and critic George Russell. Russell became his friend and sharer in his interest in magic and the supernatural. East also became friendly with Professor Dodden, a poet, Catherine Tynan, Dr. Hyde, John F. Taylor, and others who played a significant role in his later life. His stay at the Royal Academy proved to be a boon in his literary pursuits. George Russell, known to literature as A.E. strengthened East in his leaning towards the occult. With his encouragement and cooperation, he began writing poetic plays like Vivian and Times, Love and Death, Mosada, and The Island of Statue. In each of these plays, escapism is a dominant common note. His interest in painting languished. Gradually, he began to write poetry in imitation of Shelley and Spenser. Even when William Butler Yeats was at the art school, he plunged himself into the whirlpool of philosophy. His contact with George Russell in the art school had given strength to him in his brief belief in ghosts and fairies. It was John O'Leary who introduced Maud Gonye in 1880. At that time, East was 23 and was taking keen interest in the Irish nationalistic movement. Maud Gonye was a country girl of an aristocratic family. She combined beauty with nationalistic fervor. She was an extremist. East loved her passionately. This passion changed the course of his life. It affects not only his life but also poetry. It was a kind of Phoenix experience for East through her fiery and energetic personality. East was to plunge into action. In February 1903, East received a letter from Paris. In his letter, Maud Gonye informed him that she had married Major John Macbride. To the cultivated, poetic, and idealistic East, it came as a severe shock. The one woman who was his all in all had ended by marrying a lord. His heart was broken. His health gave reason for anxiety. In the field of art, his collaboration with George Moray ended in a fiasco, and for some years it was feared that he had become a victim to consumption. The tall, beautiful, majestic queen like Maud Gonye was the queen of his heart. It was to attract Maud Gonye that he had become a very revolutionary Irish Republican Brotherhood for a time. All to impress Maud, she shared his growing interest in the occult but refused to marry him even in 1916. East's love for her was as fresh as in 1889. There is a story that East, having failed in his love affair with Maud Gonye, turned his amorous attention from the mother to the daughter. For Maud Gonye's daughter by Macbridge was as tempting in her beauty as the mother had been. East was now 41, svelte, MacBride barley in her teen after enjoying the fun provided by an old man's love, refused to have anything to do with him. The poet came back from Paris a saddened and perhaps a wiser man, though East was keeping himself busy to forget what gone, but he could not do so. He had loved her too deeply to forget. In order to forget his sorrow, he once again sought relief in the arms of Diana Vernon. He had developed sexual relationship with her. She tried to divorce her husband. Later on, Diana and East retired to a private cottage and had two sexual bliss. He thought it was not wise to remain a bachelor. He decided to go on in for marriage among Ezra. Pond's friend was one Gargic Hydeless. East had known her as a medium for something like him. She was a member of the Order of the Golden Dawn. In October 1917, East married her, and the marriage bed solved his antinomies. It was from this time on East's stature as a poet grew, using his wife as a medium. East drew out a whole scheme of life and published it privately as Vision. 1917. East was growing old, but his wife was still young. He wanted to be a young man once again. For this purpose, he underwent an operation, Baronov operation in 1934. For a time, his youth revived, but the revived jest was temporary. He went to Mogorka in search of peace, where he met Purohit Swami. With him, he pondered over the Upanishads. He helped the Swami to translate his Upanishad and Patanjali Yoga Sutra. His wish was to plunge himself into impersonal poetry. He wanted to write a sort of European Gita. The crisis came on January 28, 1939 at Cape Martin in the south of France. In other words, he may say that he sailed to his Byzantium. He was buried temporarily in the cemetery of Recourven. After the Second World War, his body was brought to Drumcliff. His main works: Crossway 1889, The Rose 1893, The Wind Among the Reeds 1899, In the Seven Woods 1903, Collection of Plays 1904, The Green Helmet and Other Poems 1910, Responsibilities 1914, The Wild Swans at Pool 1917, Michael Roberts and the Dancer 1921, Autobiography 1926, The Tower 1928, The Binding Stair and Other Poems 1933, A Full Moon in March 1935. Thanks for watching.